Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams. Welcome back to the Building Great Sales Teams podcast. In this episode, we are bringing the conclusion of the panel podcast from the Growth Encounter Conference this past weekend. Let's jump back into it.
All right, guys. This one's a little more, no. Okay, so pain points, right? We all have them in our business. Let's talk about a recent pain point that y'all have had in your business and you've had to kind of overcome and how you overcame it. And we'll start back on this end with Austin.
All right, so one of my big pain points across all my businesses, and not to shout out Keith or anything, but I'm shouting you out. I didn't know what I didn't know, right? And one of the big recent ones was like I had an idea about my numbers, but I didn't really know. Like I had an idea of what it take to keep our company operational, but I didn't know down to the cent what it took. And we've been working with Keith and we have dialed in our numbers, and I made a post in Apex the other day, but like, I think we've gotten rid of $4,000 worth a month of unnecessary expenses. And like a big, one of the big,
give us examples.
So like a big item. So like for the longest time I've been renting a warehouse forklift, and dumb me, I probably should have done my research on it, but I could have just went and bought one. And so I was paying like $1,700 a month for this warehouse forklift. I found a brand new one for $30,000 and bought it, and it's cost me $500 a month. There was another deal where I had a skid steer that I bought for $112,000 that we used for about a year. We used it on some jobs. Yeah, it saved us some rentals, so we made up some money on it. But it got to a point where we weren't using it very much, and that was it's $1,600 a month. And so were we really using it that much to pay that much, right? Mm-hmm. And so I ended up selling it and sold it for $100,000, and I only owed like 87 on it, so I made like 13,000 on it plus whatever rental I made up when I was using it on jobs. So I cut that out. I cut out an unnecessary truck that was like too nice to be a work truck, and we're gonna scale back to using like an actual just work truck, not a $70,000 truck. And then same thing like. I had some commercial property on a major highway, and we ended up, I bought it about a year ago. I purchased it for $150, and we got a full asking price of $425 on it. And so it's just
he was bragging about that commercial property for a while since I met him. He went and showed it to me and everything.
Yeah. So I wanted so bad to like. And I even said something in Apex not like 2 months ago. I was like, I want this to be my place one day. And like, I had this whole dream about what I wanted to do with it. But
Keith comes in 5 minutes later. We're selling it.
Keith comes in. And it's like, Austin, we need to hone in on what you're doing right here. Right. We can always go buy land again somewhere else. Let's while land values are the way you are, like take that money that you're going to make off of it and let's go invest it into a tool that can make your business, your business that's your primary revenue generating, business. And let's make that where it can scale even more. Yeah. And then when you get to a point, then you can go buy land.
It's like Zach was talking about in his talk today, focus.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You got all these little things going on. It's like a commercial property out here that I'm eventually going to use. Yeah. But how could I use that money towards my focus, whatever it is at that given time? I remember when we blew up, I loved spending money on the business. Most people like buy all this cool shit for themselves. No, I spent it on the business, and I didn't realize it was a bad thing. So you think I'm putting it back in the business. I'm going to get it back tenfold. That's how it works, right?
It's just cool shit for the business.
It's just cool shit for the business. Dude.
It's a write-off.
Now, granted, we had 13 offices. We had over 100 people drinking coffee, but we were spending $1,000 a month on coffee.
Yeah.
We had K-Cups. And so we switched from K-Cups to a regular coffee maker because everybody all the salespeople, Monster wasn't that big yet. And all the salespeople drink coffee. And then we started spending like $100 a month on coffee, and we saved $900 a month just like that from actually looking at the expenses. But I had to put my, financial hat on, which I don't put on very often to do that. You know what I mean? So that's huge.
We did that same thing. We were buying Alanis. We were stocking our refrigerators with Alanis, and those are like $4 a piece. I mean, by the time you add it up, we were spending like $10,000 a year just in like drinks and, and stuff.
Make your own custom energy drink, $1 a piece.
Yes. I got to get approval from Keith first. But, we hired Keith and he's helped us with that. But then 2 other pain points that we were really having too was like, my wife and my wife's the owner of the company, just for government reasons, women-owned business type thing. And and it was, our employees were playing that whole mom and dad role. So if they couldn't get it from mom, they'd go to dad. If they didn't get it from dad, they'd go to mom. And so we hired Jeff Brecken with HR, Iconic HR. So we got fractional HR. We got Keith in place, and then, we've got a couple other things that we're doing. We're about to revamp our entire software and everything like that. So I think within the last 3 months and through the end of the year, we'll have spent about $100,000, revamping our entire organization just to focus in and hone on and make that perfect.
Yeah, just you got to make sure it comes out the other end, right? And that's one of the things that,
and that's what he's helping us
make
with.
Sure. Yeah, he'll make sure. That's the big deal. At the beginning of this year, I went crazy in Apex. I was like, oh, you're the expert on this. Let me hire you. You're the expert on this. Let me hire you. And all of a sudden I looked at my financials and I was like, what the fuck did I do? This is too much. You know what I mean? Like I went a little too hard. So I had to kind of scale back, tell a few people, hey, we don't need this yet. We're not that big yet. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, that's what I ran into, but what do you got, Chris?
I did the same thing, by the way.
It's so easy.
Someone ghostwriter
so you can take this off my plate.
Podcast startup company, which they're still waiting for me, and they get it. We're busy. We're all busy, but I feel guilty. I'm like, I hired you, and then I didn't pull the trigger all the way, half pull.
They already spent that money. By the time you come to get your services, they're going to be like, oh, we already spent that money.
Yeah, right. No, they're good dudes. They'll fall through.
Yeah, of course.
But my biggest problem that we've overcome recently, I didn't understand the true value of getting a personality test and having your people personality tested. Didn't understand it. But when one of my coaches came in and he took the test and he showed me his results, and then I took the test and I saw my results, and there's a description of who you are as a person sitting there in front of you and who he is. And, it's like, dude, I totally get it now. Like, I got to talk to you this way instead of that way. Like the way that I talk to myself, like I'm an excellent leader is what I learned, but I'm a terrible manager. Yeah. So I immediately hired a manager. Yeah. I immediately hired a manager. Yeah. Right away. And then him, my girlfriend, he might watch this, so I got to be sensitive to what I say here. Like, it's not a bad thing to him at all, but it's just the way that he approaches certain, maybe like the way that he approaches his role in the company is, he needs more direction. He needs more hand holding up front, and then he can take off.
Then he can execute.
And he needs to know what level of urgency there is, because he doesn't prioritize important things. He prioritizes urgent things. And I'm not just saying this stuff. It literally says this in his description. It says he's not a team player, but he's the guy that you can go to in a scenario where it's like, get it done now. It has to be done by tomorrow. Right. Yeah. So had I known all this stuff, I would have probably placed him in a different position right away. Or maybe I wouldn't have hired him right away because he doesn't fill the role that we need at the moment, right? But these personality tests, they told me a lot about myself and a lot about these people. And my girlfriend, she's a coach on the team too. She's like, how can you not get frustrated with some of these conversations? I'm like, I know their personalities. I get it now. I know how to talk to them. It's still frustrating regardless, because you want people to be like you, but they're never going to be, right? So
what personality test is it? Is it DISC, Myers-Briggs?
No, I think it's called what is the one? It's a 2-letter one. It's a IS or IP. I'll have to look it up. It's what's that?
Talk about Enneagram test?
No,
Colby A.
There's one they're actually based here in right outside of Dallas. I'll have to look it up, but it's a big one. It's Like a lot of big Fortune 500 companies.
We'll figure it out and we'll put it in the show notes.
For sure. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. We just started recruiting using disc tests. I mentioned it, and one of the things I forgot to mention is we disc tested our whole sales team, and our top performers scored in a certain quadrant of the disc test. And so when we get applicants come in, we have one of them that's in that quadrant. We're on them like, fleas on a dog. You know what I mean? We're like, we need to get them because they hit that disc profile perfectly. So it creates the standard for your hires now.
You know what's really cool about it too is it does. Some of the tests tell you exactly like if you look at like a parabola, like a chart that goes like a hill, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if people can see this, but think about like a hill. On the left side, you're at the bottom of the hill. Then as you get towards the middle of the chart, you're at the top, and then it tapers off again, right? Somewhere in that range on that hill is a job description that fits you best, right? So for me, I'm on the far right side of the hill because I'm a driver, I'm a visionary, I'm trying to be the one like really pushing the business in its future direction. But I had to be a coach for a while for my clients, right? When I was a one-man show. And that's on the left side of the hill, right? A coach is on the left side of the hill. You have to have empathy. You have to pour into people, be passionate in your response, which I was, but it's on the other side of where I'm supposed to be. So literally I realized why I hated my job so much at the time, which I thought I was going to love. I didn't hate it. It just was draining after 4 hours, is because I was climbing up the hill to the other side to do a task and then all the way back over to where I was supposed to be and then up again and back over. And what I could do in 3 hours that would drain me, my coaches can do all day long and not have any mental fatigue.
Yeah, and probably more effectively.
Way more effectively. Yeah. So much better than me at it. So
that test tells you that hill?
Yeah, it tells you like it tells you basically on the curve, depending on what your ratings are, where you should be. Like, let's just say the right side is a driver and the left side is an introvert. I don't know what it is, but let's just say those are two extreme opposites. Mm-hmm. You fall somewhere on the spectrum with what your results are. And if you're supposed to do an introvert's job, but you're a driver, mental fatigue is going to go through the roof like rapidly.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
It's funny because, what's similar to that is the visionary. You said visionary. The other side of the spectrum is the integrator, right? And what I found out a couple months ago is the integrator, yes, they're a systems person, they're numbers driven, they operate systems well, but more than anything, they're coaches. Yeah. And the way it was explained to me is like I'm the president of the team and they're the coach on the field. And I didn't think that my VP of sales and my partner, Wayne Skinner, was an integrator until I heard that. And I'm like, oh shit, he's like the best integrator I know then. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because he's an amazing coach and he went through 18 years of recovery and he's been, what do they call him? A sponsor to hundreds of people. So he's an amazing coach, you know? And so, that kind of opened up my eyes to that as well, you know? And I think the other side of that hill is probably closer to an integrator. Yeah, sounds like. Sure. What about you, Zach?
My biggest pain point, I kind of have two with the two different focuses. So with Apex, mainly I do sales. My biggest struggle with that has been keeping up. There's so much stuff taking my time away. It's follow up, and then it's reaching out to my current clients to make sure that they stay with us for life and they're loving Apex. And then it's on top of that, it's so much. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually hiring an assistant to help me with that. Yeah. To take off the stuff that, like, I'm only going to do the stuff that only I can do. And I'm going to delegate everything else to them. And it may be a little bit of a learning curve, teaching them all that stuff, but it's necessary. It really is necessary, because if I'll max out at my level right now, I can't really go much further.
Automation.
So I got to figure out automations, but I think my assistant's going to be able to help me with that too.
Well, and it's just like he just said, he went through that, right? And so the person that you hire for that needs to be the coach, you know, or needs to be the account manager, right? The person, because you got to look at your biggest talent, and you're not the young closer for nothing, right? So your talent is closing. So it sounds like your assistant needs to be the one keeping up with your clients and
maintaining that relationship.
Yeah, maintaining the relationship.
Customer service, because I can do the sales, I can do the heavy lifting, but it's the customer service. It's reaching out to my renewals and just be like, hey, you're still good. You want to go another year? stuff like that.
Yeah, I think, what did you say? You went from 2.4 to 4.8? Like basically doubled?
I'm on pace to
4.8?
To do 4.8, probably 5.
Yeah, so...
Because the last 3 months, Q4 is always our biggest quarter. It's when people are like,
taxes.
Another year, I didn't hit my goals. I see this group winning. I need to be a part of Apex. Not only that, but I got a big tax bill coming. I need to get rid of some money some sort of way. So, Austin, I think you joined Q4 last year, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
If y'all haven't gotten this yet, everybody in this group's in Apex. So, and it's not annoying. I'm not going to say that, but it is kind of annoying that we all have to go back to that. You know what I'm saying?
I thought it was so cool.
It is. It's cool as
Apex
shit.
Speakers.
Yeah.
The last one dropped out, and he was the only non-Apex, and then Chris filled it. I was like, let's go. Let's go.
No, it is awesome. It
just
it speaks to the power of the group and the power of the people in the group, which really create the massive influence that it creates. Yeah. What was your second one?
The other one for Lone Star, I'm biggest pain point for that. Just getting those systems. It's really my first time hiring, training, stuff like that. So getting those systems and realizing it's not going to be 100% success rate. So the first couple, our first 5, I had one rock star. He's killing it, absolutely crushing it. One dude that does good. And then 3, they kind of burned out. And I know that's to be expected with sales, but while you're doing it, you forget about that.
Yeah.
So I talked to another Apex executive, Mike Hanlon, and he was telling me about he's got 200 agents. He was splitting it up like these are the rock stars, these are the good. And he was saying he told me this. He said, you hire 3 people. One's going to be a rock star, one's going to be average, and one is going to suck so much of your time. And on top of that, out of you get 5 rock stars, so 15 total hires. 5 rock stars, 4 of them decide they want to go start their own stuff. So those numbers, it reinforced that, hey, you're doing everything right. Just split those systems up, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, get them the knowledge they need at each level, and that's it. Just getting those in. I'm real excited about that stuff.
Yeah,
I really am.
It's hard because we're trained in Apex and the different masterminds we're in, and by each other to be givers. And so when we see somebody struggling, we want to help them, right? But that's why I said you have to create the sales program and let the sales program do the work. Because if you're investing all that time in the people that aren't producing are going to leave anyways because it's not for them, then your rock stars and your average salesperson, which, like I said, I take 5 of those average people over 5 rock stars because I know I can build something with them. You know what I mean? And that's not to say like the rock star is destined to do that. If you have an amazing sales program, they're not going to go anywhere because of the culture, But
that's another thing Mike was talking about is he's like, there's different ways that you can make that average person become a rock star with different sales trainings. And you can keep maybe 2 of those 5 rock stars with the culture. So there's different things that you can add in there.
Yeah.
But it's just pretty cool, man. Just because I have to become a different person. I have to become a better leader and a better manager and a better systems guy in order to accomplish that. So it's pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. Being challenged like that while you're producing in Apex as well.
It's tough, man. But that's one of my core values is I'm willing to do what others won't in order to get what others can't. And that's the epitome of doing everything on my plate. Like some days I come home and it's just like phone up, I'm done. But it's like that's what I need to recharge.
Yeah, absolutely. What you got, Keith?
Mine's just being patient. I oftentimes just jump head first into an idea. And what that ultimately ends up doing is biting you in the ass.
Yeah.
Right? For every 5 ideas I have, one's okay. But the other 4 suck so much life and money and time that it's just me wanting everything today, but then also realizing there's steps you need to take to make sure once you get it, you can sustain it.
Yeah.
So mine's patience. We're still relatively new in the business, although we're a decade in, and I still battle with that daily.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty quick answer.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that because my biggest pain point was fulfillment, and I'm not patient when it comes to that type of stuff. I build it up in my head how it should work, and I build out this beautiful system, right? Because I'm a systems guy, and then we try and execute, but it's a business we don't know that well yet. So it's not, the fulfillment is too slow. And so now I've got to kind of take 10 steps back, build out my own fulfillment, and the patience I have to have for that, and the capital I have to have for that. Oh my gosh, I'm not used to this. I'm used to just scaling so fast, because the fulfillment's never been, we're always bringing the customers and then the client fulfills them, So that's been pretty rough. All right. So we can run through this next one. And I feel like it should be fairly easy because we all have people that we look up to, right? And at first the question was, if you had to shut down your business today and you couldn't own a business, who would you work for? But I wanted to get a more educational answer out of this one. And so if you had to work for someone else for 6 months, you knew that you were going to go work for them for 6 months and then you got right back to your business. You were able to press pause on it. Nothing bad happened. Nothing good happened. Go work for this person for 6 months. So obviously you would be thinking, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe you guys can tell me different, but I'm thinking I'm going to go work for someone that is going to give me an education I can't get from anyone else, right? And so if you had to go work for someone else for 6 months, Austin, we'll kick it off with you. Who would it be?
The first person that I could think off the top of my head would be Kurt Lennington. Man, that dude, like, he's kind of a reserved type of person, doesn't talk a whole lot, but like the team that he's built, the company he's built, the culture he's built is like, it's like, man, like I want that, but what I see out of it is like, they don't necessarily do like what I do as far as government roofing work.
Right.
They're more privatized commercial, privatized residential, stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I want what they have in my company, and I'm hoping that at some point in time in my life that I'm able to, help people say, like, where they look at me and say, hey, like, I want that government work in my company, and something like that. But I just look at their company and how he does things and how he has so many leaders in place. And they've got a machine.
I can second that one too, because not a lot, but several things in the presentation that I gave today were solidified by him, and I didn't know it until he got up there on that stage and walked through his whole, process for building a great culture. But we aligned so much, you know what I mean? And he just had the 4.0 and the 5.0 of what I'm doing, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, bring it on. You know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. What about you, Chris?
I would probably say Bobby Castro.
Okay.
You guys hear him at MDM?
Yeah.
Dude, that guy is passion, man.
He's the only one that Ryan Stewman pays to mentor him. So that's
exactly. No offense to Ryan, but I feel like Ryan's so generous with the shit that he puts out. I'm like, I could probably find everything that Ryan wants to teach people somewhere on the internet. He's just so generous with it. He just lets it all go, right?
Yeah.
Trust me, he's got more value than that, than what he's put out. Like I've seen it, and I guess Build Your Machine is like a true testament to that, because that's what we all been referring to all day. Yeah. But Bobby is his mentor, and when he spoke on stage and when he was off stage, backstage, talking to like a smaller group, I say this all the time, passion isn't heard, it's felt.
Yeah.
I could feel Bobby speaking to me. I was like, this dude puts it on. For sure. Every value that he has inside of him, I could tell is with good intent. Like, and he sold his business for what, like 400 million, something like that. I'm like, yeah, he probably knows something.
Oh, $1 billion.
$1 billion.
Billion.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, Bobby. Wherever you are, man.
Put some respect on it.
I'm trying to do that. Yeah. So that's the guy.
No, I couldn't agree more. I don't know if any of y'all were there for the new Apex members event. They did like a lunch and everything for them.
Yeah.
We took our energy drinks over there, and then Tyler Dozier was like, hey, why don't you jump in on Bobby's speech here? And it was just for the new Apex members. And I was like, heck yeah, I'll jump in there. And you're right. Like, I'm standing 6 feet away from him. I can feel it. Like you said, I can feel his passion, when he talks.
He didn't even have to talk. If you recorded a video of him talking to the group and then you muted the video, but you just saw his actions.
Body language.
Like, I don't know what you're saying right now, but like, I'm trying to find a transcript or something right after, because like I could tell that it's good. I can tell it's good. So,
and a lot of what he talked about in that chat, because it was very fireside chat style Q&A type deal, and it was really cool, was people.
Yeah, it's all his people.
And And it was just, you see all the billionaires and, Elon Musk and stuff like that. And you just, in your head, you're telling yourself a bullshit excuse of, oh, they fucked somebody over or they did something. They're part of the Illuminati. You know what I mean? Something like that. Yeah. There's a reason that they were able to do this. And then you have somebody in front of you that actually did sell a company for $1 billion and is I don't know technically how that works, but I imagine he's a billionaire. And he's just like, it's the people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just the people you have investing in them. This is how we build our culture. And I'm like, son of a bitch, it's the same thing that everybody else has been saying. And, here he is validating it.
I feel like there's a lot of like successful business people that put a bad name out there for successful business people.
Right.
And they've done stuff on the back end in the wrong way, but they're also flashy and they're also like say pretty rogue statements at times, and that's why they get that notoriety. So a lot of these people are the people of influence that we know because they're so off base with some of the comments or some of the way that they carry themselves. So we know those people to be the famous business owners, but what we don't realize is that the highly successful ones, like very, very successful, a lot of them we don't even know who they are because they're not that person.
Right.
And they've made good decisions their whole life, and people like to talk about controversy. People like to talk about negatives, right? And they're not those people, but they exist. We just don't know them as well as we see some of these lesser quality people, I guess, in the spotlight. So
it's very true. It's the news that reports on the negatives, not the positives. Absolutely. What about you, Zach? You're already working for Ryan Stewman, so
I'm already working for the GOAT. I'm gonna go with Kurt Lennington too. So I've had the pleasure of not only talking to Kurt pretty often, but also a couple other people that he recommended for Apex executives. He sent them over to me, and I was talking to him. Hey, what do you do? What did you used to do? How do you know Kurt? And it was two very impressive guys, and they said I used to be an executive VP, regional VP at LA Fitness. And I thought that was so. There's no way that's a coincidence. So I asked
genius
him,
recruiting.
I asked him. I said, "What? Some of the most impressive leaders that I've met, Kurt, Tony, a lot of the guys at Linear, and then I'm talking to these guys, these referrals. And I'm like, dude, I'm just blown away. Like y'all are studs. Like there's no way that's a coincidence. What bread did LA Fitness attract y'all? Did they breed y'all? Like what is it? And
what factory are you coming from? Because I need to find some.
Not because I didn't know if they attracted top talent because the opportunity was so good, or if they made that they built them. And he said, dude, they built them. It's the old LA Fitness. It's not the new one. It's different. They brought it. I think they got bought out or something like that.
Yeah.
But the old one, they preached leadership and pouring into you. And he gave me Well Done, the book Well Done. And that's helped me because I'm so hard on not only myself, but other people that I love everybody. I'm proud of them and I want them to win, but sometimes it comes off as negativity. So just letting people know, like, positive reinforcement. It talks about how they trained Shamu at SeaWorld because it's a 7-ton, whatever it is, 7,000 pound animal. You can't hit it because it's gonna kill you. It's positive reinforcements. They put a rope in the water and it's deep in the water, and every time the whale comes over they give it food and they pat it and they learn other stuff other than just food, and they just start raising that rope. So Well Done, 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. He recommended that book. Another one was 13 Fatal Errors That Managers Make. So he just started rattling these off, and he's like, dude, those books were like our Bible while we were at LA Fitness. And these are very, very impressive dudes, but Kurt, by far, I think he was the most, I know he was the most impressive to me, and I'm amazed at what he's built and the way he carries himself. And coming from an immigration background, he came illegally from South Africa, has an accent, looks like a James Bond enemy villain character, and he's just a hell of a dude. So I don't mean to, I don't know, like ride him like that. He impresses me, and it's real difficult to impress me, and that's who I would go learn from.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy, and so now we got to do a reel for Kurt You know what I'm saying? And we're going to put this out there for him. And he absolutely will see it.
He's going to say, who's this dude riding my ass?
Yeah. Get off my ass, man. No. That's pretty crazy that like we all kind of have that sentiment. So that's awesome. What do you got, Keith?
I pick a type, and I don't necessarily have a specific person, but Andy Frisella, Ed Milet, someone of that stature. And the reason isn't for who they are, it's what they've accomplished. And kind of their story coming from mediocre, whatever you want to call it, to this big icon with a huge company, right? And not necessarily the how, but I want to witness the work.
Yeah.
And I think that's a misconception, right? People want to know, how'd you do that? Well, I talked to Big Marv. Oh, let me talk to Big Marv. Well, what about all the other shit that came up to that point?
Right.
So that's my thing. It's always been, I want to get in the gutter and see, how did you put this shit together? And what was the effort and what did it look like?
Yeah.
To me, it's more important than the who.
No, that's massive. And I agree with all those answers 100%. And I like what you're saying too, because you still put in those 16-hour days, you know what I'm saying? And then the knowledge that you put into the 16-hour days made his automation blow up. Right. You know what I'm saying? So 100%. Like you're giving all the credit to him, like is what you talked about, servant leadership. Yep. But that's everything that was in here. You put it into his automation and it lit up like wildfire. So that's massive.
So like to Keith's point, man, there wouldn't be, 8,000 leads in the pipeline had I not been on social media for 6 years prior.
Exactly.
But then knowing the people, finding them, they can actually make it work for you. It's important.
It is. And, we've referenced a lot of books and, and that's why I'm asking too, because it's like, man, these people that have done these amazing things and so many people want to get in front of them and it becomes this like celebrity type deal, when it would be so much more beneficial just to read their fucking book. You know what I'm saying? Right, yeah. Like that's where you're going to really learn, Yeah.
Still the misconception is like, I can read that book and then.
Hell no.
Right. And the people, like to your point, it's like 6 years of putting weird shit on Instagram has paid off.
Yeah.
But if you didn't do that, you wouldn't have had the 4,000 leads to give Marv to get to this point.
Right.
So I think, this society today is like, I want to push a button and I want it in my lap, right? Amazon.
Yeah.
I think we're all married, right? Well, might as well be married.
Yeah.
Push a button, shit's delivered to my doorstep the next day. It's not that fucking easy.
Yeah.
Right? But we take that to business. Like, this shit should work. Why is it not working?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I don't know about you guys, but do you feel like your ability to like grow in I guess let's just call it dollars because that's a simple metric to measure. Do you think that that's kind of like a logarithmic thing? Like you suffer for so long and you put in so much work for so long, and then you finally see a little uptick, and then eventually like what you make in a week is what you fought for last year for all year long. And then that week turns into be nothing. It's like the next, I don't know, 6 months later, that week was like nothing in comparison to what you're, do you think it's, cause I feel like everyone thinks that their work ethic is going to match their income. And it's like, it's so far from the truth. Like what Keith was saying, like I put in hours and hours and hours in the Starbucks coffee shop pirating their Wi-Fi because I didn't have it.
Right.
And I did that after I got off of my other job, and I did that for years, right? In order to get just started on this business, right? And then it's doing well, but like now it's really starting to take off. But it's that effort on the bottom line for so long. Who can withstand that? And then eventually it starts to take off, but it's not necessarily like, I thought it'd be gradual. I thought it'd be linear. The amount of effort you put in equals the dollars that you're going to get out. And it's not true. It's compounding.
Compounding. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. At least I've seen it that way.
Well, and I always I caution guys that are younger than me and even guys that just have been in business less time than me, because you have that compound effect, right? Happen. And sometimes it happens too fast for us. It took, I think you said 6 years for you, and you're kind of at that point now where you're skyrocketing. For me, it took like a year. It was not long. You know what I'm saying? Because for whatever reason, I had a talent for systems and delegating and getting myself out of that sales role immediately. I only knocked doors for 3 months, and that was it. And so, but where that fucked me is I thought, oh, it's going to be easy now. Yeah. Now I made it. You know what I mean? And so so I see a lot of our guys in our network, especially, and I'm like, all right, you're doing really well, but are you putting something away? Are you putting, emergency systems in place, not just money?
Talking about me right now.
What's that?
You're talking about me right now.
No.
We're fixing it, big dog.
But seriously, though.
It literally, I didn't have any relationships. I had a business that was like ready to just fall apart. You know what I mean? And so when it did fall apart, it was just me again. And then, so for the past, 6 years, or not, what am I, 36? Yeah. For the past 6 years, I've been going through that grind again that you're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. And then I decided to switch to solar. And so I'm like, yeah, let me dump $300,000 into this thing. I have, no knowledge of the construction side of it, but I'm a sales company, so I can scale. I'm not worried about it. And, I'm finding out something else right now. You know what I mean? And, but I've been through it, you know what I mean? So I know that there's a prize at the end. Do I have the endurance to get to it though? You know what I mean? And I'm pouring all that knowledge that I learned over the past 16 years back into it now. And, I'm actually enjoying it for the first time in a long time. So the person that I would work for is Gary Vee. And I know y'all all gave very practical, like, people, but for me, what he talked about was, and I know it's so cliche, but he actually explained it in a way that I understood a lot more. Like, enjoy this moment, because this is the height of your creativity when you're challenged beyond all common sense. Nobody understands like why you're doing this, and why not just execute at a 6-figure level and be good? Why try and build this multi-million-dollar business? And, but you'll never be more creative than when your back's against the wall, And so most of us are wartime generals. When our back's against the wall, we explode.
Go to war.
Yeah, we go to war. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And I'm genuinely enjoying every day being challenged. And I do. I come to my wit's end, and you probably had those moments too. And so I'm excited for the rise back up, and then along the way, doing stuff like this and getting to teach and stuff. So you had something to add.
Man, I was just saying, like, you really were kind of talking about me, because for 15 years of what I was working in the roofing industry, working for other companies, I busted my ass and just like was grinding, but still living paycheck to paycheck, and not necessarily my own doings, but, just the way I was being, the circumstances. Yeah. And, my wife and I started our business December of 2020, and the first job out of the gate was a $162,000 job that I made like $70,000 on, and so like,
oh, this is it.
I'm like, wow, I got $70,000 in the bank. Like, and I have, we're working out of our house, everything like that. Yeah. And, and we scaled so quick, but I didn't scale so quick just because of who I was. It's because of all the work I put prior to that.
Right.
And the work ethic I put in because of that. And, we did 3.2 our first year, and, we made a lot of good money, but we also made a lot of dumb mistakes. But a lot of it was because I didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And now it's to that point, like we're having to step back, take a couple steps back, so we can reassess and readjust. That way we can take 20 steps forward.
Mm-hmm. But with all that knowledge now, you have a focus, you're intentional about it, and you're making an impact where you want to make an impact.
Yeah.
And one of the, Wayne said this the other day in our quarterly that I told you guys about, that we have those masterminds. He was like, all this shiny stuff is really cool, like, spending $30,000 on marketing or something like that. But he was like, I'd rather my guys make that out in the field. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's different when you start getting people focused, and it usually happens later on in your career. because you're so focused on the business, building the business, not necessarily making a bunch of money, but beating everybody else. You know what I'm saying? And so then when you become people focused, you're like, okay, I'm going to do, 1.5 million this year, but damn, my people, I have a 90% retention rate right now. It used to be 10. You know what I'm saying? Like, and my average income for one of my sales reps is 74 grand. You know what I mean? Like, the impact is so much better now per person than it was before when I had 100 making 36 grand on average. You know what I mean? And so that's a big transition that you make as you get further and further into business. So it's really cool. So the last piece, I've had Keith on the podcast. I've had you, Austin, on the podcast, and I talk about building an intentional legacy all the time now. So, my listeners know what mine is. And so I was very curious for Zach and Chris. We'll start with Zach. What does legacy mean to you? And what kind of legacy are you going to leave behind? And I'm mainly curious of your answer because you're 22 years old. So, yeah.
Legacy.
That's tough. I think legacy is one of those things that is just like it's overarching. It's so big. It's really hard to put into words, but I've thought about it a ton. What legacy is to me is really what people remember you as, and I'm just a very logical person, so I love reverse engineering everything. I've reverse engineered my girlfriend. I've reverse engineered my what my day looks like, and I've reverse engineered my legacy too. So whenever I think about down the line, what are my grandkids going to be able to tell their kids? Mm-hmm. Whenever I'm not there, what are they going to say? And it's just I just kind of want to impact so many people. I want to be the dude. I want to be the dude that creates other dudes. I want to be a best-selling author. I want to be, dude. I've thought about becoming an IFBB pro, and I've always been skinny, but it's like the sky.
You make the best pros, by the way. When you build your muscle, your physique is perfect for it. It just takes time, but you keep going. I'm just saying you do well. I already saw. I train him Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so like he could do it.
So I'm just thinking about all this stuff. It's just like I just want to live life. I want to travel on I want to go to every country. Mm-hmm. I want to be like the most interesting, like the Dos Equis dude. I want to be like that's really what I want.
Zach Sasser, the most interesting man.
And I want people to. I want to help so many people. Like I want to put out the stuff that I've learned. The way that my mind tries to make things so simple and reverse engineer everything. Mm-hmm. And I just want to put that out into the world and help as many people as possible. Y'all were talking about, you said 100 million. What'd you say before that? You said 1 million and then you hit 1 million. So you said 100 million after that. What Ryan taught me was you can't say 100 million because you'll hit that. Mm-hmm. You need something that you'll never hit. So what will you never hit? As many people as possible, because there's always going to be one more person that you can get out there and go help. So that's my legacy. A legacy is a short story, something that people remember you as, and I want people to remember me as just helping a ton of people and just being the dude, living life, making the most out of life.
Being the dude that creates other dudes.
Being the dude that creates other dudes.
That's quote. That's gonna be quoted, and I love it. You know what I mean? Because it does that hits your demographic. They know what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Like they know what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? What about you, Chris?
Yeah. I think my legacy kind of goes. It falls in line with my big ambitious goal for life, which Zach said. Impact 100 million lives, and the only reason I'm assigning a number to it is because, like, before I said I want to change 1 million lives. Now I have a few million followers on social accounts. So I'm like, well, maybe I changed 1 in 3 of those lives already. So maybe I got to bump that number because I'm 29, So I got some more time to do this. So I keep increasing that number. But Zach's right. There really is no limit to it. My legacy is, like, I worked so hard for so long, and I know that I'm going to keep doing that every single day because that's where I find fulfillment. I talked in a speech earlier about how I don't want to go on vacation because I know I could be changing lives, like in that moment where I would be in the pool drinking a margarita. I could be changing somebody's life, and it's happened in a moment. So why would I want to, if I had the alternative of, or the ultimatum of go drink that margarita in Mexico or change this person's life. I'm choosing the life every single time. And I don't say that we should all take a break when we need it. We should all go on vacation, but
right.
My superpower is an endless fuse, man. I don't shut off until I tell myself to. I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I don't have the most resources, but I can work really hard. That's what I'm good at. So I'm going to keep working because that's what I like to do. And because of that, I've never had many friends. Apex is the first group of friends that I've had in a very, very long time. And I don't say that lightly. Like I literally,
no, that's real.
I can't think of a person that I would bring to my wedding and call my best man. Like I never had that in my circle. And the reason is because I don't live my life for myself. I feel like my life is a life of servitude for other people. I've given up my life for other people. I choose to live that way. I'm going to continue to live that way. My legacy would be when I die, even though I don't have any friends, I still have a lot of people that show up to my funeral. And I feel like that's going to be, or a lot of people that tune into my funeral.
Right.
And I don't care to have a lot of people there, but I just want to know at least somebody saw that there was this group of people over here, however many there are, that actually were actually touched enough to where they wanted to tune in and pay their respects. Right.
Right.
And I want that to be my legacy as well, because I think that if you live with that intention in your life, your family is they're gonna follow that path, you know.
100%.
Yeah.
I wanted to add something onto that, is because you can't even quantify the amount of lives that you've changed. Because I'm thinking about me. We train Monday, Wednesday, Friday every single morning. And yeah, you know, I get a lot of fitness stuff. Of course, you're going to learn a lot of fitness stuff from an IFBB pro. But I get a lot of like life advice and mindset and working through my demons and stuff like that. Yep. And you can't even quantify, like I go home to my girlfriend and how do I affect her? I guarantee you the stuff that I learned Monday, Wednesday, Friday, me getting up early in the morning, getting my shake in me and getting on the road, I guarantee you that changes her life. I guarantee you that it changes, you know, my mom and my dad and, you know, all these other people. That you can't even quantify that.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely it's like a spider web that moves outward, right? Like any good quote that I've ever read, like whoever wrote that book doesn't know that I've repeated that quote in some speeches that has resonated with so many more people, right? So yeah, it's really cool. I put the number out there just as something big to look at, and be like, that's what I'm gonna hit. Do I know if I'm gonna hit it? Who the hell knows?
Yeah,
you know. But
you have a measurable, you know what I mean, and you realized your first big hairy goal was too small, real quick. You know what I mean? Yeah. So now you got another one, which is awesome. Yep. No, I appreciate y'all's answers and being vulnerable with that. I've been really, you know, we all have our first book that we're going to put out, right? And I think my second one's going to be about legacy, you know, and it's weird that I'm thinking about this one so much and I haven't even written the first one, you know, but, it's because the building great sales team stuff comes easy to me. Like that is a simple system that I work off of, and I don't even need the presentation. It's just a cool visual. And so, you know, and I'll mention them again. Philip Sessions challenged me to do a talk on legacy because I had been so interested in it. So I developed this structure because I have to. I'm a visual person. I need a structure. You know, if I'm going to build an intentional legacy, then I need to know what that looks like, you know, visually. And so what I built out is, I built it on the silhouette of an oak tree. And because, you know, that's where I want to end up, you know, somewhere on my land. My family meets around an oak tree and they talk about how to continue the leg. And it's not my legacy, it's their legacy now, but how do they continue it? You know, they're barbecuing, it's family reunion, whatever the case is, but there's certain leaders in the family that are like, hey, we need to continue this legacy. And the foundation of that legacy, and I always get two answers. Some are tangible and some are intangible, but the intangible is typically values, right? That's the foundation of the legacy, right? And then, you know, when we talk about in our business, our core values in our business, our personal core values, and to me, the values fuel the purpose fuels the things, right? So you got the values at the bottom of the pyramid. And it's funny how everything works out that way. It's a pyramid scheme, right? You got the values at the bottom. That's the foundation. And that's how you operate your purpose, right? Your purpose is your work. your purpose is your fitness coaching, your purpose is Break Free Academy, roofing, tiling consulting, Roofco, right? That's what you're passionate about. And it can be barbecue. You know what I mean? Like I'm passionate about barbecue, right? And mental health. You know what I mean? So those are my purposes within my legacy, right? And then from the purpose come the things, you know, which is like, you know, my wife has a dresser from her great grandmother that's in the corner of her room, and that's something that she's going to hand down to my daughter. So those are the things, right? And it's not going to be the watch, or you know what I mean? It's going to be these things that are worth $20, but they have the sentimental value, right? And so to me, it's a 3-tiered system. It's the values, you pass on the values to your children, and then the people that you affect, you know, and the values and the purpose that you had is what brings them to the funeral. You know what I mean? Your family gets the stuff, right? The business, the financials, all that. But the values and the purposes of what brings them and makes them tune in. I like that you said tune in too, because Chris's funeral is going to be televised. So
Be on Instagram. That's where I live.
All right. So real quick, we'll just do Instagram. If you guys want to run through your handles real quick so that everybody can connect with y'all.
Mine's Austin the Texas Roofer.
Awesome.
Mine's Chris Zizzo. It's KrisZizzo.
Mine's Sasser21, SASSER21.
Keith Gause, GAUSE.
All right, guys, these are the GOATs in their respective areas, so reach out to them. They're all go-givers, you know what I mean? So to a certain point, you reach out to them. Don't ask them to pick the brain. Just ask them a question if you need to, and they'll get to it when they can, or obviously you can hire any of them for their respective services. I appreciate y'all doing this. It's at the end of a conference. We put everything into our keynotes and our speeches, and then the whole event for you, Austin, and then you guys still agreed to do this afterwards. So I appreciate y'all for that, and let's get building.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Building Great Sales Teams. We appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and leave a review wherever you consume podcasts, and subscribe so you're notified when we release new content. Great sales teams aren't recruited, they are built, brick by brick. Let's get building.